All right, we're talking about, pro sports and the landscape here in Louisville. And there's a couple of points that have to be made. You don't have to agree with me, but at least understand what my point is before you disagree. And it's this. I'll give you a perfect example of why evidence, I think, is that it's habit more than anything else. We are so lucky. I'm watching TV right now. I mean, it's a perfect example. We put the TV on, as we do frequently here in the studio. It's the Senior League Baseball Championship. For a lot of people don't even realize this. The national organization known as Little League has a division for kids between the ages of 14 and 17, and it's called Senior League or Senior Little League, I guess. And they're big kids, and they play in a bigger field, and their championship game is on TV right now. Chris Burke is doing the color analyst. Chris, of course, went to my basketball camp at Bellarmine. He was an all-star there, and more significantly, was a great player at Tennessee, and then had that dramatic home run for the Astros, major league player. He's a Louisville major leaguer. We have, from the kids who grew up here and from the kids who played at U of L and UK and even, other schools in the area, countless professional athletes. When they get out of here, we basically ignore them. I'm amazed at that. I mean, Will Wolford said that. I'll be honest. If you get Will talking, he'll tell you he's still a little bitter that he played in 3 straight Super Bowls for the Bills, and the Courier wouldn't even interview him. They wouldn't even talk to him. It's like his proudest professional achievement, the marquee sporting event in the country. He's a born and bred Louisvillian. He played at St. X. His father played at U of L, and nothing. He couldn't even get the people wouldn't even talk to him. And I'll be honest, he was hurt by that and disappointed. But you know what it is? It's our habit. And here's the example. I'm watching TV last night in the press box at the Bats game, and we're watching the game in front of us, and we also have the TV on for the Reds and the Phillies. And who comes in the 7th inning to replace Cliff Lee? None other than B.J. Rosenberg. B.J. Rosenberg from the University of Louisville, who was absolutely killing people in the minor leagues. I think his ERA was like 1.7 or something. And he came in, got a ground ball to Chase Utley, who erred it, so he should have been out of the inning, and then struck out Ryan Ludwig on just some 96-mile-an-hour cheese. And I'm thinking, this dude can pitch. I mean, he's a player. If we had professional sports teams here for a long time, our habit would be to embrace them coming back. Think about how many UK guys are in the league, in the association right now. I mean, think of U of L's got a few guys in there. Got T. Will and Earl Clark and Francisco Garcia. And think about how many Major League Baseball players now have started their careers here, either coming through Louisville, going to the University of Louisville, Chris Burke. But once they get out of here, we just don't follow them anymore because there's no reason to. They're irrelevant to us because we're not on the landscape. So what I contend is it's just a matter of habit. It's not a matter of, we don't care. It was a conscious decision to eschew Major League sports. It was the idea that as you grow up, you're ingrained to only follow the University of Louisville football, University of Kentucky football, University of Louisville basketball, University of Kentucky basketball. That's what you're ingrained. But think about what's happened just in the last 10 years. Lalo Prado started it. Dan McDonnell embraced it. You can't get in. I went to see their NCAA Super Regional a couple of years ago. I had to go sit on the berm out in left field because we didn't get a ticket in advance. The place was sold out. You couldn't get in. What happened? They got some momentum. People started to pay attention. Now it's become a little bit more of a habit. Now you go to the games over there, and I've noticed the crowds are 5 times what they were when I first came to town, 10 times when I first came to town, because there's a new generation of kids that have embraced it a little bit, younger fans. It's become a little bit more of a habit. So my contention is it's not an atmosphere or a city or a climate that isn't conducive to pro sports. It's that the habit of people has been to not pay attention to it because we've never had it. And that's that. And I'll tell you one other thing. And this is the other argument I want to make because I think it's really, really important. People say to me, and there's definitely a segment of this population that quiver a little bit because if you mention pro sports, they think, oh, God, what if it takes away from the University of Louisville or it takes away from the University of Kentucky?
That's not the pro team's fault. That's you as a fan's fault.
But wait a second. I contend this. you are in this situation yet, but I have 2 kids. When you've got 1 child and you had the second child, you didn't think to yourself, boy, I'm going to love the first one less now. I mean, that's what it comes down to, honest to God. Maybe from the school's point of view, they may have a budget thing. I don't know. Maybe Louisville made $24 million in basketball. Maybe if a pro team is here, they make 15. So, I mean, I can't speak for them. I don't want to be advocating. So I'm not trying to damage them. But the fact is, as a fan, it shouldn't take away from you at all, unless everybody out there has 1 child because they're afraid if they had another one, they wouldn't like the first one anymore. I mean, it doesn't make a lick of sense, does it? That's exactly what this is about. It's about adding to the environment. It's about adding to your family. It's not about taking anything away. I mean, you can love your child with all the love you have and still have all the love you have. I mean, that's what definition is. That's what emotion is. It's not quantified like a pie. Okay, I like you 6. I like Nick 4. It doesn't work that way. I mean, so it's the same thing with sports. So it doesn't make any sense to me that this is somebody just texted us. You're on a topic that's a true hot button for me right now. I can't call in right now, but the question is, do you think the Center intentionally didn't meet NBA specs when they built it?
Yes.
You think that was? Well, you're a conspiracy theorist.
It's not conspiracy theorist. Why wouldn't they? Because it would make it more difficult for an NBA team. Couldn't say, well, you have an arena right here, because they don't have an arena. You'd have to put millions of dollars. I mean, you've been in those locker rooms. Those locker rooms aren't a fourth of what the size of an NBA team would need, and that's just starting out with just the locker rooms. I do think that.
Wow.
I absolutely do think that.
No, if it is.
Well, here's something that you said that I think's key.
Okay.
When you talk about us, we get in patterns of thought, and I think you're 100% right about that. I do that all the time, just about non-sports things, but I also do it with sports things. And you mentioned you have a new, younger group of
younger
people,
demographic.
Younger demographic. Besides the NFL, what's the number 2 sport to a younger demographic? It's the NBA. It's the NBA. It's the most notable stars. You know what Kobe looks like. You know what LeBron and all his Heat guys look like. You know what Derrick Rose and Tyreek Evans and Kevin Love and Dwight Howard and all. You know what those guys look like. To people growing up, the NBA is going to be more popular than college basketball. It's going to rival college football. It's going to be more popular for sure than baseball is. I mean, go down the list.
Well, I thought you were going to offer this, because this is the argument that I make, and it's true. When I came in here, and I tell people, it's amazing to me, if you don't like something, how quickly you want to assume no one else likes it.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, well, I'm just speaking for everybody. And I always say that's dangerous. And here's the example. When I came in, and I remember what it was, however many months ago it was, when Euro 2012 was going on. And I walked in the front door of this building, and you were sitting up there, and there were 3 of our other staff guys, and all you guys are 20-somethings, and you were all speaking about Euro 2012 with the same kind of interest and passion and energy that another generation might have discussed. Who's the better center fielder, Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, or Duke Snider? And to somebody who doesn't like soccer, they refuse to acknowledge that's out there because they don't like it. And that's fine. Like I said, if you don't like it, I will never get in that cockamamie discussion to try and convince you to like something you don't like. If you don't like it, don't like it. But don't assume because you don't that a whole generation, because that is like I came out yesterday and said, which I say all the time, I root for Liverpool in the English Premier League. Why? Because the Beatles are from Liverpool. So that was my emotional connection. Jason laughed. You laughed. But the fact is, you can have a discussion about the English Premier League. People in this country, you know why they show it on ESPN? Because people are watching it. There's an interest in it. They found out when they started to show it that there's a fan base that likes it. But people who don't like it want to categorically dismiss it. So that is the point about a city like this. We have said things over and over here that I don't believe are true. I think we say them just because it's our habit.
There are people in this city on other radio stations, Bob, that say that people in the NBA, nobody likes the NBA. The NBA doesn't play any defense. The last guy on a roster would shut down just about anyone in college basketball. It's offensive, but you know what? People don't do their research. People think, just like you said, that once I see one thing, once I see Latrell Sprewell not play defense 16 years ago in a Golden State Warriors game, that's just how all 300 guys in the NBA are. It's embarrassing to those people that say it, but you know what? There are thousands of people who say it and they're wrong.
Well,
they're wrong.
They are. Like I said, if you don't like it, they're two different issues. Nobody's going to argue taste. I'm never going to come on and tell you should like, cookies and cream better than chocolate chip if that's what you like. That's a matter of taste. If you don't like soccer, if you don't like the NBA, that's your business. But don't argue. No one likes the NBA. No one likes soccer. Major League Soccer right now is one of the great success sports models in this country. They built soccer-specific stadiums that are half the size of these ridiculous football stadiums they used to play in. They're 20,000, 22,000. The sight lines are great. The tickets are affordable. They're finally tapping into some of that youth market that everybody plays. Every city in America's got a gigantic youth soccer program. Then they just stop paying attention to the game when they grow up. Columbus has tapped into it. New York has tapped into it. New York's going to get a second team. I know. Did you see that the other day?
I did.
They're going to get a second team now. L.A., where they play in Los Angeles, is a great success story. Real Salt Lake is a great success story. These Kansas City's an enormous
Seattle,
success
Kansas
story.
City,
Seattle's
Chicago.
one of the hottest tickets in town.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's just, don't, like you said, do a little research. Go sit courtside in an NBA game and then come back and say, gee, they're not guarding anybody. When you're watching the guys inside beat the crap out of
you know who's not guarding people? College basketball. The second guard in Iona isn't guarding people. I mean, go look at, you know who's a great example? Patrick Patterson. Patrick Patterson was a perennial, could have been a, first-team All-American, second-team All-American, big player at Kentucky. He can't get on the floor. Terrence Williams was one of the, took Louisville to a number one seed. Could go for a triple-double at any time. He can't get playing time in the NBA. The guy can't get in. I mean, Eric Bledsoe had a nice career. He's a third stringer for the Clippers last year. So, I mean, it's just,
and we're not knocking those guys.
No, we're not
Those
at all.
guys are very good players, but that's the point. That if I never understood that discussion. If I like basketball, but I don't like the NBA. Have you watched it? Maybe 30 years ago. Not now. I mean, it's just, but that's the point. We say that about everything. We say that about, this city supporting Major League Baseball. or any sport. I just can't believe if we had a professional team, if B.J. Rosenberg came back to town, if Chris Burke came back to town, if, all these Louisville connections, guys that played for the Bats, we got to see them coming back as Major League players. If all the UK guys came back to town, the U of L guys came back to town, now Indiana's they get that with the Pacers. I mean, I believe that's one of the reasons the Pacers have survived, is they embrace the fact when guys come back. It strikes me as we say things out of habit that are not factually true anymore. Nobody likes soccer. Really? Do you think the ESPN's putting it on because nobody's watching it? That's why poker's on. I wouldn't be caught dead watching poker, but I understand why they put it on. You know why? Because people watch it. The same reason they're showing all these Premier League matches. People watch them. And why do they watch them? Because you may not like it, but people like it. And that's the reality. And we say things in this city because we're Cubs fans. Cubs fans do that. Go talk to the Cubs about their team. They assume they're going to lose. That's what we do here. 267-9680. Greg's been holding for a while. Greg, come on in. What's going on?
How you guys doing today?
Good.
I have to tell you, I can't agree more with all of your comments. But I will just give you just my own personal opinion. As a guy who grew up here, I couldn't wait in grade school and high school to see professional sports. That was all that you heard about growing up here. Oh, I want to see the NBA. I want to go see the Reds play. I want to go to see the Pacers or whatever. I can remember the Colonels being here and loving to go see the Colonels play. Then I left, went to college in New Orleans, went and lived in Brooklyn for several years, and then came back here and saw the other side of professional sports that you see as an adult and that you don't necessarily realize back in the late 70s and early 80s as a kid, because you didn't have the access to media and the access to information that you do now. I would venture to guess that my kids have a different view of it than I had at that time. They're 13 and 15. But that being said, my only concern is that if you bring that aspect of professional sports, and I know what it would do economically for this city and for events for the city and people being involved with it, my only thing is I just kind of like Louisville the way that it is, and that may very well be that Cubs mentality. But I like Louisville the way that it is, and I'm afraid that in doing such, you would lose the quaintness and the charm of this city.
I think that there's I think your analogy is spot on. Why do you think the Cubs still play at Wrigley Field? I mean, there is a very much an appreciation for history and tradition and being comfortable. And I'm not quite sure that you're sacrificing all of that simply by bringing professional sports in. I mean, as I said, maybe I'm over dramatizing the family analogy, but if you've got a child that's funny and charming and lovely and wonderful, and you have another one, he's not diminished. He's just got another addition to your family. I think that's how this city would be. I don't see how adding professional sports to the city would somehow undermine the culture that you're talking about. And a perfect example is this. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. You could tell me, Greg. When they built the Yum Center, this was an economically driven decision, but it was a decision nonetheless that changed the landscape. In the last 15 months, there have been more A-list acts that have come to town than probably in the first 15 years I lived here combined. Every time I turn around and go by the Yum Center, Katy Perry's there and Justin Bieber's there and every act in America that can pack 20,000 people that traditionally in the past would pass us and go to Cincinnati or Indianapolis has come to town. I don't think that's changed the culture here, do you?
No, and I was going to bring that up as well. Listen, I'll be the first to admit that I wasn't quite convinced and sure that we needed a Yum Center. Looking at it now, 15 months later, there's no question in my mind that it's a great thing to have here. And so with that being said, I look at it and I think about it in those terms in that maybe I'm stuck in that same mindset that I was with Freedom Hall and the Yum Center. And that's why I say I listen to your points and I can see every one of your points. I still have, but that's still my own personal concern, and which very well may be wrong. If I look at it in terms of the same comparison of Freedom Hall and what the Yum Center did, and what a professional sports team would do here. And my own thoughts is I agree with you about soccer. I think soccer would be a perfect fit for here. And I would love to see a professional soccer team here. I think professional basketball, I'm not quite sure that it would make it as well, just for it's so costly. Yet when you think of the cost and you equate what you pay for a U of L ticket versus what you pay for a pro basketball ticket, it's all relative.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Greg, I appreciate the open-mindedness you bring to the call. I thought it was a great phone call, and thank you for that. And you know what? Your analogy with the Freedom Hall and the Yum Center may be more compelling than even the one about mine having a second child, because there were a lot of people, I don't know that we need this, and oh, my Lord, we did a show one day, Jim